Have you ever wondered why someone lives in your heart even without any contact? No messages, no calls, yet their presence doesn't leave your mind. Is it love, destiny, or a test from Allah? In Islam, this feeling carries a much deeper meaning than most people realize. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes you're going to discover the hidden reality behind why someone keeps living in your heart, and the spiritual lessons Allah may be showing you through it. One of the most common reasons someone continues to live in your heart without any form of contact is the presence of unspoken emotional attachment. Human beings are naturally wired for relationships, bonds, and affection. Sometimes a person touches your life in such a deep way that their memory stays long after the connection has ended. This attachment may remain unexpressed or unresolved, yet it finds a place in your heart, resurfacing from time to time. From an Islamic perspective, emotions are not inherently wrong. Allah had created us with hearts that feel and minds that reflect. Love, care, and attachment are natural parts of human life. However, the challenge arises when these emotions linger without clarity, direction, or boundaries. When you constantly think about someone who is not in your life anymore, it could mean that your heart is holding on to an unfinished chapter, something you never addressed fully. This attachment can manifest in different forms. For some, it may be love or admiration. For others, it may be the pain of separation, betrayal, or longing for closure. In such situations, the heart keeps revisiting the person, not necessarily because of destiny, but because the emotions were never resolved. Psychologists often explain this as the mind's way of seeking completion. But Islam encourages us to look deeper. The Quran teaches that the heart finds rest only in the remembrance of Allah. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find peace. Surah Al-13:28, unspoken emotional attachment can sometimes become a test. If left unchecked, it may lead to overthinking, distraction from worship, or even unhealthy obsession. That's why Islam reminds us to manage our feelings with wisdom and self-discipline. The Prophet said, beware, there is a piece of flesh in the body. If it becomes good, the whole body becomes good. But if it becomes corrupt, the whole body becomes corrupt. That piece is the heart. It's a Bukhari, a Muslim. This hadith shows that what we allow to stay in our hearts directly impacts our spiritual state. The key is not to suppress your feelings, but to acknowledge and redirect them. If someone lives in your heart, ask yourself, why are they still there? Is it because of unresolved love, a need for closure, or perhaps because Allah is testing your patience? Once you identify the reason, you can seek healing through forgiveness, and surrender to Allah's will. Sometimes Allah allows a person's memory to stay in your heart as a means of reflection and growth. It teaches you about the depth of love, the fragility of human connections, and the importance of relying only on Allah for ultimate peace. By addressing this attachment with maturity and faith, you turn what could be a source of restlessness into a path of spiritual refinement. In the end, unspoken emotional attachment reminds us of our humanity. But true peace lies not in clinging to people, but in placing our hearts fully in the hands of Allah. For He is the one who controls hearts, and He alone knows what is best for us. When someone keeps returning to your heart and mind without contact, it may be more than just an emotional attachment. It could be a test from Allah's sin. In Islam, nothing happens without purpose. Every thought, every trial, every emotion is part of Allah's plan, designed either to draw us closer to Him or to teach us lessons we would otherwise ignore. Sometimes Allah allows certain people to occupy space in your thoughts, not because they are meant to stay in your life, but because their memory is a tool to test your patience, ego, abri, and trust in Allah's tawakkul. For example, a person may leave your life or cut off contact, yet their absence feels heavier than their presence once did. You may wonder why you can't move on, why the heart clings, or why closure feels impossible. This is where Allah tests whether you will rely on your emotions or place your trust in Him. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that life itself is a test, and we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to the patient. Surah Al-Baqarah 255. This verse highlights that loss and longing are part of divine tests, and the true believer is the one who responds with patience. Being patient doesn't mean you feel no pain. Even the Prophet felt deep emotions of love and loss. But patience means restraining yourself from despair, resisting sinful responses, and trusting that Allah has wisdom in everything. Means acknowledging your feelings while handing them over to Allah, saying, why Allah, you what is in my heart, if this person is good for me, bring them into my life. If not, remove them from my heart and replace them with your love. Such situations are also a test of tawakkul, as trust in Allah's plan. Our minds may insist that we need a particular person for happiness, but Allah knows whether their presence is a blessing or a trial. Sometimes what we desperately want may harm our faith or delay a greater blessing Allah has planned. By allowing your thoughts to return to someone, Allah may be reminding you, do not tie your happiness to people. Tie it to me. This test, though painful, can purify your heart. Teaches you to depend less on creation and more on the Creator. Every time that person comes to mind, it becomes an opportunity to turn to Allah in dua, to strengthen your sabia, to reaffirm your tawakkul. Instead of asking, why them? Why now? Shift the question to, what is Allah teaching me through this? In the end, if someone lives in your heart without contact, see it as a reminder from Allah. It may not be a sign to pursue them, but rather a test of how you manage your feelings and where you place your trust. Those who pass this test by holding on to sabr and tawakkul will not only find peace, but also discover that Allah replaces every attachment with something far greater, His nearness and love. When someone lives in your heart without contact and their memory continues to return again and again, one possibility is that it relates to Qadr's destiny. In Islam, nothing in this universe happens outside the will and decree of Allah. So every encounter, every separation, every thought, and even every person who passes through your life is part of His divine plan. The Quran reminds us, indeed, all things we created with Qadr, predestination. Surah Al-Qamar 54:4-9. This means that even the thoughts that keep returning to your heart are not without meaning. Sometimes Allah places a person in your mind as a sign of future connection or as a way to remind you of something important about your life's journey. It does not necessarily mean that the person is guaranteed to be your spouse or life partner, but it may signal that Allah has tied your paths together in some form. Whether for a blessing, a lesson. In relationships, believers often wonder whether persistent thoughts about someone mean they are destined partners. Islam teaches us to understand destiny through a balanced lens. On one hand, Qadr is already written. The Prophet said, the pens have been lifted and the pages have dried. On the other hand, Allah has given us free will and the ability to make choices within the framework of His decree. This means while someone may be written for you, your responsibility is to take halal steps, seek guidance, and place trust in Allah's decision. Persistent thoughts about someone could therefore be an indicator, but they must be handled with wisdom. If these thoughts lead to increased dua, patience, and trust in Allah, then they may indeed be a part of your destiny unfolding. However, if they lead to despair, sin, or unhealthy obsession, then it is a sign to detach and refocus on Allah. Destiny is not simply about feelings, it is about what Allah has decreed for your ultimate good in both this world and the hereafter. Another important point is that Qadr is not always about union. Sometimes Allah writes someone into your life to teach you love, patience, or resilience, and then decrees separation. This too is destiny. The person may not be meant to stay, but their presence serves as a stepping stone in your spiritual growth. Thus, even when someone is always in your thoughts, it does not always mean they are meant to return. Maybe that Allah is reminding you of a lesson, shaping your heart for something greater. The best way to approach such situations is to turn to Allah in istighras, the prayer for guidance. If it is written in your Qadr that this person will be part of your life, Allah will open the doors in ways you cannot imagine. If not, He will remove their memory from your heart gradually and replace it with peace. Ultimately, the possibility of Qadr should be seen not as a source of anxiety but as reassurance. If someone is truly written for you, no force in the world can prevent it. If they are not, no amount of longing can make it happen. This certainty brings comfort because destiny is always in the hands of the one who knows best. When someone keeps returning to your heart and mind, it can feel overwhelming and confusing. You may find yourself questioning why this happens and what it truly means. In such moments, the most powerful tool a believer has is dukkha supplication. Allah has given us the gift of calling upon Him directly, opening our hearts to Him, seeking His guidance when clarity seems out of reach. The Quran says, and when my servants ask you concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me. Surah Al-Baqarah 296. Dua is not simply about asking for what we want. It is about surrendering our hearts to Allah's wisdom. When someone's memory lingers in your mind, instead of letting those thoughts turn into anxiety or unhealthy attachment, you can channel them into prayer. You can say, "Oh Allah, this person is good for my faith, my life, and my hereafter, then bring them closer to me in a halal way. And if they are not good for me, remove them from my heart and grant me peace." This type of dua opens the door to peace because it places your desires under Allah's guidance. Turning to dua also protects your heart from falling into despair or sin. Constant thoughts about someone can sometimes lead to hopelessness, overthinking, or even actions that displease Allah. But when you turn those thoughts into sincere prayers, you transform a burden into a source of blessing. Instead of drowning in your emotions, you rise spiritually by reconnecting with your Creator. This is the beauty of dua. It transforms confusion into clarity and restlessness into calm. Another important point is that do brings patience. When you don't know whether someone is part of your destiny, it is natural to feel restless and want immediate answers. But Allah loves those who are patient. Through duhi, you learn to wait with trust. Each time you raise your hands, you remind yourself that Allah's timing is perfect. If something is meant for you, it will come at the right moment. If not, Allah will replace it with something better for your dunya and akhirah. Do also brings saknahai, tranquility to the heart. Many people think peace comes from having clear answers or getting what they desire. But true peace comes from knowing that Allah is listening and that He will never leave you alone in your struggles. Even if the situation remains uncertain, your heart feels lighter because you know the matter is in the hands of the All-Wise. Finally, do is a reminder of love for Allah above all else. While it is natural to feel love or attachment for someone, a believer must ensure that this does not surpass their love for Allah. By constantly turning to Him, you keep your priorities in balance. You realize that no person, no matter how deeply they live in your heart, can bring you peace the way Allah can. In the end, when someone is always in your thoughts, dukkha is the safest and most powerful path. It gives you clarity if the person is truly part of your Qadr, and it grants you peace if they are not. With du, you are never left in confusion because you place your heart in the hands of the one who knows all hidden truths.